we are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is P-Car Talk.
All right. Welcome to an episode of P-Car Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are down at Suncoast Porsche, specifically Suncoast Porsche Parts, hanging out with a couple guys that we're super close with. We're so happy that we're able to be here with them. We want to thank them for coming on the show. Rick and Pete, thank you guys so much for having us down here and letting us drive the race car today and all that kind of stuff. So, that thing was pretty epic. But we'll get into all that good stuff, guys, and what we think about that car and get into the details of all that stuff. But before we get started, want to thank all 67 countries that have been downloading from us all over the world. Thank you guys so much. It's so humbling. Can't believe that many people are actually want to hear what we have to say, right?
That's true.
It's interesting. But thank you guys nevertheless so much. And let's go ahead and get rolling. So we have Rick. He is the internet web developer for Suncoast Porsche Parts. He is the man who has developed everything that you see. Anytime you're ordering anything from Porsche, Suncoast Porsche Parts, this is their man. And I've ordered parts. It's kind of funny. It's surreal that we're all hanging out and meeting, and I met him a couple weeks ago for the first time. But really, we met at Rennsport last year and didn't even realize it. I kind of swung by their booth. They had a booth there, and I said, "Hey, Rick." I didn't even know his name. I just said, "Hey, I buy parts from you guys." And he's like, "Oh, that's cool." I was like, "Hey, I'm in Tampa." And he's like, "Oh, here, take some of my stuff so I don't have to bring it back to Florida too. So you can help me bring some of this stuff back."
Nice. Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have Pete. He's their superstar driver. He's their parts advisor here in this area. And then he's also a Porsche ambassador. Yeah. So we're thankful to have you on the show as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
And we got some serious tenure with you guys too. Like Rick has 20 years here. You have 7 years. So apparently, in order to get a job here, somebody needs to die, huh?
Yeah.
Whoa. Hey.
So
well, I guess Rick's first.
Yeah, he's first to go.
Yeah, so who's going out first?
Cool, cool.
Who's going down first, right? No, but in all seriousness, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day and spending time with us. And, thank you to your, the people that, basically control everything here at Porsche, the GM, and want a big shout out to them for saying, letting us come into their house, letting us use you guys and basically mingle and do all this stuff, while you're working. So what a cool place to allow somebody to do something like that, right? That speaks volumes for the staff that's here at Suncoast, I would say, that what a great staff, So, I wish I could work for a place where people are like, sure, podcast and a YouTube, people want to come in and
why not?
drive the car and you guys are going to do whatever and hang out with them today, have fun today. It's like, what? That was my work day? Okay, cool. So pretty awesome nevertheless. But Rick, let's kind of get into your history since you've been here for a while. You've been here for 20 years. Let's rewind a little bit about Rick. Let's talk about Rick's Porsche passion. Where did it start? How did all that stuff get started with you?
Well, I just kind of stumbled into this, and they had an empty website and an eBay account, and they said, "Can you do something with it?" So all these years later, obviously I figured out something.
Yeah.
But I just kind of wanted, and I hate to sound cliche, but I wanted a site the way I wanted it.
Of
you know
course.
what I mean? So,
of course.
So, and I use my dad a lot. Is like,
Okay.
"Hey, Dad, check this out.
Yeah.
Can you figure it out? If you can, maybe everybody else can." So it just kind of worked.
So you, did he know that you were using him as a test bed?
He know. So,
Dad, if you can navigate this, anyone can navigate this. We love you, Dad. I don't think he meant any. I don't think he meant any disrespect by that. But I think he was doing counterintelligence on you. You didn't even realize it.
That's the best guinea pig.
Exactly right. Hey, what do you think about this, Dad? Well, this is pretty easy to navigate. He's like, success. No, but awesome, man. So why Porsche for you? Why Porsche?
Started with German cars, loved BMW, and I was always fascinated with rear-engine cars, just MR2s, all that stuff.
Okay, yeah. So even from a young age,
Right.
Maybe not necessarily Porsche right away, because we have a lot of similar. We started with Volkswagen and JDM cars when we were younger, and it was just kind of evolved. Is that kind of a similar background for you as well?
Pretty much. Worked at a family body shop too as a kid, so I just kind of learned the parts catalog there, and when I stepped here, this was progression. So
yeah. So as far as did it start off as more kind of a job, and then you kind of wanted to Porsche, or was it the other way around? You're like, okay, I am going to get this job because I want a Porsche.
think that's how it worked out. Yes. So it took quite a few years for that to happen, but yeah, finally got my Porsche and been able to. It's been cool because like the car you drove today, those are the cars where we test products.
Yeah.
And so many things we have are because of my old Cayman, my old Boxster.
Yeah.
Cayman.
That's pretty neat. So that's nice. That's rare, I think, as a whole, for a lot of dealerships that you guys are test bedding some of the cars that come in here, right? Like that's unique to you guys.
We take pride in that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like, hey, these parts are vetted. We used them. As we talked offline a little earlier, Pete, like you were like, we're not going to name the name, but you're like, we beat down some exhausts, and guess what? It didn't stand up to the test, so we had to move on.
Yep.
So, I mean, that speaks volumes for what you guys are doing as far as, being a parts supplier as well, because you're just like, whoa. Like, if they're running it on their car, that's probably a good thing, because they're just, like you said earlier, you and Paul are just beating the car down one after another. It's not getting a break.
Yep.
And it's like you're really testing the stamina of the parts that are going on the car, right? So it's pretty neat.
It's a good level of customer service because you're really able to go, well, this works and this doesn't work.
Yeah, that first-hand experience.
Yeah. And you're like, I'm telling you, it don't work. I don't care how pretty it is, it don't work.
Right.
No, but that's nice. So, okay, so let's talk about, like, currently what your iron is. What are you driving right now?
718.
Nice.
So Miami Blue, of course. And that's been fun. It's kind of the opposite of the race car.
Yeah.
Got as much Miami Blue inside as possible. The boys, shout out to our guys at Exclusive Options, helped me with some custom stitching. Just anything unique and factory that I can put into it, I've pretty much done. So,
outstanding.
Whereas the race cars, the other end, like how much can we push this safely?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that's always the model, right? Like, how safe can we actually go with this kind of stuff? Now, as far as, like, let's talk about the Miami Blue a little bit, because everybody knows Miami Blue. Like, oh my God, is that a PTS color? Did you have to spec that car? What happened with all of that? Like, or did that actually come in that way, or?
Just a car I found that had all the right options and, just spec.
So you
that
just
way.
got lucky, huh?
Very lucky.
Yep.
Nice.
And I just jumped on it. Bad life choice. I was just like, oh, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's a manual.
I don't think that's a bad life choice. I mean, obviously you wanted the car, right? So then now you're so after obviously you've had it for some time. So like dust has settled. Do you still feel like it's a bad life choice, or are you happy that you made the choice?
I ended up getting a daily driver. Because in city,
of course,
got a little.
Yeah.
But it's
you
great.
love it, right?
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Might chip it someday. Maybe we'll see. But
once your warranty runs out.
He will.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things, right? It's like, all right, let's not mess with the warranty right now, because we don't know what might happen here.
We don't know. We don't know.
Nobody make any sudden moves.
Right.
So, okay, Pete. So, we heard a little bit about Rick. Let's hear a little bit about your story. You've been here 7 years. You're a Porsche ambassador. You're, a spec foot on the racetrack. You spend some time there. You get to go a bunch of Porsche fun stuff. So let's rewind a little bit about yourself and say, why Porsche for you? Where did the Porsche passion really start with you? When did you know that you've been bitten?
My dad grew up the majority of his life. He was in New Jersey, drag racing.
Okay.
And he stopped before I got a chance to see any of that. But he's always been into cars, so I've always been into cars naturally. And then I kind of transitioned towards the sport cars, and that's kind of really where I fell in love with. So sports cars racing, I mean, I follow IMSA and all that good stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But it's kind of weird. We have a monthly Cars and Coffee here that we started way back in 2011, and that's how me and Rick met. And then I saw a job kind of post up, and I kind of emailed him, hey, man, should I swing by? And he said, do it.
Yeah, it's
nice.
Like,
so it was like, snap your fingers.
I knew he was the one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're like, he's passionate. He definitely needs to be here. And that's great, though, because that you already had a relationship beforehand, right? So he already knew that you were passionate about cars, and you had that Porsche passion, and you had the idea of sports cars, and you had that. And so before you came here, like you said, you always kind of like sports cars. Did it become a slippery slope when you started working for Porsche at that point?
Not
or
really.
Did it become like, oh my God, like I'm totally in Porsche now, like, and that's it? Or,
I mean, you can answer it with one little phrase, you just drive one.
Yeah.
That's all you really need to do. I mean, you drive a car, you drive a Porsche, you're going to fall in love.
Yeah.
I was on the fence I'm a big manual guy. I was on the fence with PDK.
Yeah. Same.
You drive
Very
a PDK,
same.
and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is the business.
Life-changing, right? Like, I dogged it for a long time. Ask Aaron. I was like, you know what? But it's one of those things I think that you get like the people that hide behind computers or something or whatever you want to call it that never experienced something. They're like, I don't need that, whatever. And then you drive it and you're like,
man, I was missing out.
I was actually very impressed with that. You know what I mean? And it's like, I didn't know this could be this way. So then things change, right? So you reevaluate and you're like, information I could have used yesterday. No, but that's awesome though. I mean, so, you know, that's great that, you know, you have that background and you guys, that's kind of a unique story too. You know, there's a Cars and Coffee here and then you guys met through that. Yep. And then, and then now you're employed here 7 years later. And so it was a good decision, right? When you told him too, you're like, hey.
Yeah, it was okay.
Come here and work here.
We like to think it works out.
You should come here and work here.
But I mean, we've been a great team. We bounce ideas off each other all the time. And, you know, that's how we test a lot of stuff. Hey, what do you think about this? Let's give it a shot.
I like that though, because I mean, how are you going to really know, right? You got to do some R&D on stuff, right? Like you can always take somebody else's word for something, but like you guys put it to the test, really. I mean, you guys are putting it on the track. You guys are really putting it where, you know,
putting it on the street.
Yeah. Letting us, letting guys like Yahoos like us come and drive. And you know, so what do you think? And our eyes are like all big, like saucers when we come back, and we're like, yeah, we like it.
And it's not even just
the
the track cars. I mean, the Macans and the Cayennes. You know, we were always testing stuff and figured out some cool stuff nobody ever thought of. So that's why you have a good team behind you, and you know, people are willing. It's cool. We have, you know, great techs that are willing to give this stuff a shot for us, and you know, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. At least we tried.
And I would say, you guys, you know, kudos to you guys as a parts department too. You know, like giving us the tour today, it's like you guys have really good taste. You can tell that enthusiasts work here, because like there's die-cast models everywhere. Like rarely do you go and see stuff like that at other dealerships. Like the variety of things that you guys have here, like really speak to the soul of who I am, like as a Porsche enthusiast. Like I walk in here and I feel at home, like instantly. I'm like, okay, somebody else has a problem here too. Yeah. Like me. And I know as Rick is raising his hand, I'm like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, but I was like, but that's the kind of people that need to work at places like this though. You know, you don't need to get the guy. And we actually had a conversation about this, as it's funny. And it's like, I'm not speaking to, you know, the one individual, but I'm talking to like the stereotype, and we've all been there. You go to a dealership and it's generally a salesperson or whoever, maybe even a service writer, who knows. And it's just a job, right? Yep. So you talk to them and you're like, yeah, you know, I got like an air-cooled 964. And they're like, oh, yeah, cool, the one with like the big V8 in the front, right, man? And you're like, no, it's not. That's a 928. Oh, I thought that was a 944. And you're just like, oh, my God, man. And you're just like beating your head against the wall. And you're just like, you get to work here, man? Like, really? Like, you? Like, I should be working here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hire the enthusiast, man. But you know, I don't want to get off topic, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, we got
right?
a good team here.
Yeah, you guys, and you know, doing the walk around, and it seems like everybody's dialed in. You know what I mean? Like everybody on the staff is very dialed in on you know, of what you guys do, and especially from a motorsport perspective. And it's pretty awesome to see this.
Motorsport bleeds through.
Yeah, this synergy here. I mean, the dealership, they have a 718 race car, like, I mean, built like that. Their staff let them build. I mean, that's pretty cool alone, right? Like, not too many dealerships are allowing anybody to do stuff like that, right? So, I mean, kudos to the soul of what you guys are doing here. That's really awesome. Let's transition a little bit. Let's talk about Rennsport last year. I know it's kind of an older event, you know, and not, but you and I, it was our first time in Laguna Seca at Rennsport. Correct. So, what was that like for you when you were out there, Rick?
That was just mind-blowing. If you can hear my voice and there's a Rennsport, I don't know what you're doing. You have to go. I mean, it's just the cars you see there. The tractor race was just so ridiculous and stupid. It was awesome. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just walking around the pits and just the cars that are sitting there was just. Yeah. Where else are you going to see that?
I totally agree. Did you get to go last year?
Did not,
the last one? Okay,
I
so definitely not. Okay, so next time you get to go next time, right?
Dude.
Is that the rules? Like,
that's the rule right now. We're making that the rule.
Yeah, that's official.
Well, hopefully it'll come over this coast.
Yeah, we kind of did talk about that at breakfast. I really do believe that there's gonna be one here, and then it's gonna go back to Laguna Seca. I really do believe that in my heart. So, I think we'll get one here pretty soon.
It happens. So.
Generally, yeah. Say it so. No, but I agree with you, Rick. I think. And Aaron can probably attest to this because we talked about it many times. It was like drinking from a fire hose, right? There was just so much there to consume.
Right.
It was just insane. Like, it was just, and I know everybody who maybe didn't go and you saw the social media stuff, that wasn't even like a quarter of it. like it was just everywhere. It was just oozing out of everything. And you guys were there for the duration, right?
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
were we, and it still felt like it wasn't enough. I wasn't there long enough. It felt like I still
You're
feel
always
like
finding something new.
it's
and
like I
then
feel like I
seeing
missed
something,
something.
and then-
It's like where's this been?
Right. I think walking around the 959 tent, did you stumble
Oh,
in there?
yeah.
I mean, how many millions was that just
Yeah.
sitting there?
Well, and that's another thing too. It's like we talked about, like, in our own inner circle of friends that were there. I mean, I don't know if it was just because it was a 70th and like, Bruce Canepa had been doing a lot of the 959 restorations recently, and it was just kind of a coming together where they all were just there. But I don't know if there, it's easy. I can't predict the future, but I don't know if we're ever going to see that many in one place ever again.
Right, that's the spot to do it.
Yeah. I think there was like 13
Yeah.
959s all under one tent together, and like
And one of them was that was Bill Gates's, one of the guards' red ones.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
No big deal.
Right.
yeah, and some of them were like PTS ones, and it was just like super rare ones. Like it was just like, I think there was like a Conda Green one. It's like, when
Yep.
do you see
Yeah,
stuff like
there was
that?
An orange one.
Yeah.
And then the rally one too.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and it was
the
just like,
Rothmans
the
leather.
Rothmans one.
Yeah,
and it
Rick
was
put
like,
a video on our Instagram of that tent, and it
Yeah.
blew up.
Yeah, it did.
He
Yeah.
was like, dude, have you seen this, what it's doing?
yeah. He's like, oh my God. They're like, where are you? They're like, where you should be at Rensport. You need to be there.
Yep, just one tent. That's it. That's just
Yeah.
Right.
many.
Yeah, he's like, I was walking by to go to the restroom and I saw this. This is what you see here.
I had Paul FaceTiming me every night. Dude, watch this.
I know, you're probably like
Staring at my phone for half an hour while he's walking around
Yeah.
the whole paddock.
You're like, you don't need to say anything. Just walk.
Yep.
Just walk.
I couldn't hear him. There was
Yeah.
race cars
Oh,
going on
yeah.
the track. I'm like,
It's
whatever,
just
man.
like,
Just keep walking.
Yeah, just keep going. Like, you got connection. Just keep on going. Just keep showing me what you got. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I agree with Rick. If you've never been, you're really doing yourself a disservice, right? Like, you got to go. Like, you got to try to do anything you can to try to go. That's one of those, they only happen every 4 years. So do everything in your power to make sure you go to it, Granted, that's the thing every 4 years,
Yep.
but who knows? We'll probably see one in 2 or 3 years, but
Yeah.
and then we'll see another one in 2 or 3 years, but that's the point. But so let's talk about the actual 718 car that we drove today a little bit. So let's talk about the whole, like, the beginning of that car, like the story behind how you guys got the car, the build behind it, the ethos behind it, and where it is today. So like take us through that journey. Either one of you,
Yeah.
you guys. Okay, so Pete, you tell us. Like,
I guess it starts with our original car. We had a 987 Cayman 6-speed that was kind of built as a little parts display car. This is what we can do. We can wheels and tires and brakes and yada, yada, yada. And we started tracking it a little bit here and there, and then we started to really track it, and then kind of caught up to itself.
okay,
So we had the idea. We let it go to a local guy who's a friend of ours, since turned it into a race car, and we see him at the track. And it's pretty cool to see the old car now an actual race car.
That's
And
really
it's-
cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And then we started to kind of hunt. I wanted a 981 GTS. I wanted that 6-cylinder.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I wanted another manual car. And we had a couple kind of fall through, and then all of a sudden this car just kind of fell in our lap.
okay,
So it already had some camber plates and it had some track pads on it. So we knew it had a little bit of a history on the track.
mm-hmm.
But we scooped it up, and we really wanted to see what the 4-cylinder can do.
Yeah.
That was the big hoopla when this car came out. How's
Exactly,
it-
because it was new to market.
Right.
Yep.
So it was like, okay, where's the potential here, right?
Right. So we wanted to see what that engine can do. The other thing was PDK. Everybody's switching to PDK, so we stay with the times. Let's get a PDK
The two
car.
things nobody liked, the 4-cylinder
Right.
and the PDK.
Right.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I kind of like that, right? Like, it's kind of like the chip on the shoulder thing. It's like, okay, fine. Like, nobody wants the unloved car. Let's
Yep.
see what we can do with it.
And even since then, I was telling you earlier, we have 1,200, 1,300 track miles on the car.
Mhm.
We've been probably 10 events since we've gotten it.
Yeah.
And at the most, I've seen 2 718s at the track, and
Yeah.
Sebring's our hometown, so
Exactly.
2, maybe 3.
Yep.
So, and there's countless 987s, 981s out there, but there's
Mhm.
very, very few of these cars. So it's cool to be out there, and like we were talking about, we're one of the test beds for these cars. We got a lot of parts that these companies haven't used yet on these
Yeah.
cars, and we're trying them out. So we did that, and then we just we didn't want to throw the whole book at the car right away, so to speak.
Yeah.
The whole parts catalog.
Yeah,
So
'cause
we
you-
kinda
'cause
did it
you
in
guys do
stages.
have the capability, right?
Exactly. So
Exactly.
we started doing it in stages. We did wheels, tires, brakes, right
Like a
away.
normal person would, right?
Right. Right.
Instead of being like, overnight parts from Japan, $20,000 right now.
Exactly. So we did
Done.
we did some some things like that. We dialed in the suspension. Then we got seats put in the car, harnesses put in the car. and it's tuned by Cobb. So that was a few track events later. We did some of those things, and just it seems like every track event we've got something different with the car that we're working on.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you and I talked about this, but did Cobb kind of work with you like as a pilot to tune that car? Is that what it was?
Pretty much. They already had the tune out, but
Uh-huh.
not many cars are out there that
Yeah.
at least are being tuned. So we were in massive talks with them, text messaging,
Yeah.
trackside. This is what the car's doing. The first time we took it out was in Homestead.
Okay.
So it's a shorter track. It's not like Sebring. The speeds aren't as high. A lot of more technical
Yeah, yeah.
corners. But we were every single day. I'm in the car. Paul's talking to Cobb back
Mhm.
and forth. This is what it's doing. And they've been a huge help for us.
Yeah.
And from what they've told us, we're probably the hardest ones in the country tracking the car.
Yeah,
right now.
you guys are the roughest on these things. And you're like, that's what we want, man. That's what we want.
Yeah, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome, man. What a great build, and like what a great opportunity, right? And that's all goes to say the success of Suncoast as a whole, right? Suncoast Porsche as a whole, to be able to say, and you and I talked offline about this too, where the GM and everybody here, they just trust what you guys are doing, right?
Yep.
So like, how cool is that to like where somebody's not micromanaging you and they're kind of like, well, here's a car, have fun, and you're
Enjoy.
just like, is this like a joke or like, or
It's pretty much how it
like,
is.
you're like, okay, have fun, see ya. You know what I mean? Like, get out of here before he changes his mind with it, right?
Yeah.
So
But yeah, I mean, we earned our stripes, and it's a big responsibility. And
absolutely.
the cool thing that I like about it, it's not a race car.
Mhm.
It's not really a race car. It's a street
Yep.
car. So
Yeah.
it's cool that you can do these things to a street car. And like you and I were talking about earlier, you daily that car. I would daily it.
Oh, yeah.
It's on Recaros and
But I think
Cup
you gotta.
twos,
You
but
and I
I'll-
are kind of a special kind of nut, though. I think you
He's
and
gonna
I.
love your car.
Yeah,
He's gonna love
I think
it.
you and I are kind of one of those guys, like the worse the drive, like meaner the car is to me.
The stiffer and louder
It's
it
like,
is,
and it's like,
the more I want to drive it.
you're like, okay, you have more character. It's like, you don't want me to drive you every day, but guess what? I'm gonna drive
Yep.
you every day.
You're gonna like it.
Yeah, and it's like, fine, I'm gonna punish you. You're like, go ahead.
Yep.
I can take it all day. What do you want? You know what I mean? It's just like you keep challenging each other. It's like, whatever you want to do, I can do it. But yeah, that's so great though, man. Like, such a cool history. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So Rick and I, it's funny, we talk about this a couple times offline, and a lot of people, like, I guess around the world, they don't even realize that Suncoast Porsche also
Yeah.
sells cars.
Oh, yeah, they do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that they really, and I can't speak for everyone, but I think just the general stereotype is that you guys are parts distributors, right? Like, because
Yep,
they're like,
'cause
oh,
you go to the
Suncoast
website
parts.
and- yeah.
But I mean, I guess maybe in a complimentive way, that speaks to what you guys do, because that you guys are so like in tune with what people need, and your website's so well developed, and you guys give such good customer service, and you guys are testing and tuning so much. Maybe that's why people think that, right?
Yeah.
But clearly you guys aren't. You know, obviously we've been here. You guys are a dealership. You're a full on. You have service. You have all that stuff. I just kind of wanted to clear the air with that because, you know,
They do have cars. They are for sale.
Yes.
yeah, there are many probably people listening, you know, all over the world thinking like, oh yeah, I buy parts from them. They're not just a parts place. No, they actually sell cars, guys, and they do service on them too. So
Yep, yep.
whatever you want to do.
And they are real Porsche parts.
Exactly, right? So just
Yeah,
kind of
that's-
wanted.
That's a question we always
get that one
Are
every
these
day.
Factory? Well,
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly.
It says it right
Well,
there.
What do you mean it's a factory? Like,
You mean if it's Porsche OEM? Yes.
Yep.
you're not selling these out the back of the trailer
Yeah,
or
we didn't
something?
find
Like,
'em.
yeah, like, what are you talking about right now? It's kind of weird. Like, what? No, but I think that's really cool. So now let's get into like a little bit of like some of your deep down like old school stuff, and we'll start with you, Rick, since we heard a little bit from you, Pete. So like, what's one of your favorite all-time Porsches for you? Not necessarily you need to own, but just something that you gravitate towards, like that you always liked. New, old, doesn't matter. Go for it. Tell me why.
Sure. I'm a sucker for a GTS.
Okay.
Any GTS. I don't care what it is.
Okay.
It's like the right formula, the interior, the sound, the look, the body kit, whatever. So that's probably that. Speedster, Spider.
Okay.
It's a big list.
Yeah.
But then I'd say bucket list cars, 996 C4S and 993 C4S.
Okay.
I think those cars are really special. The turbo body.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like they stopped with that formula. So
Uh-huh.
I'm still a sucker for a big
Yeah.
J-Lo booty. And
Yeah, I like that. Good explanation behind that. So, 996 C4S, huh?
Right.
I like
yeah.
that.
Well, I did have one for a minute. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
The short minute, but he had one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it maybe one of those things, not a long enough minute where maybe you still lust after that
Yeah.
car at that point?
Someday,
Yeah,
if I
you
found
think-
one with the right mileage,
Yeah.
I could probably, and the right color.
Yeah.
So
What color?
Yeah.
it'd have to be speed yellow.
Nice.
Yeah.
We were
I like
talking.
colors.
Yeah, I do too. We were talking about that on the way over here. Like, I feel like if you're gonna buy a 996 turbo, you should have one in speed yellow if you can get
Yep.
one.
Mhm.
Like, if you're gonna
Yeah.
buy that turbo car, like, I feel like that car is
can find
justified.
one.
Yeah, that exactly. Good point. But if you do find one, like, that car's perfect in my personal opinion. You know, obviously opinions are everybody knows the answer to that,
Yep.
but I feel like that car looks perfect in speed yellow
Mhm.
just because of the wide haunches
Right.
and it's just perfect.
Right.
You know, I just kind of like, ugh.
It's a period color.
Yeah.
So, you know what I
Exactly.
mean? It's just good.
I kind of agree with you though as far as the GTS. I like that answer. I've kind of never heard that answer before because honestly, we were talking about that actually when we reviewed a GTS because we were telling people when we were doing the review, so there's so much to choose from, right, with Porsche when you want to do things from a la carte or do you want to do things like that. And I think the GTS kind of sums it up in the sense of like it saves you all that headache
Yep.
where
You're
you
all
don't
the way, all the way
yeah,
up there.
where
Yep.
you don't have to go there and be like,
Check
well,
every box, yeah.
exactly. And you're like, you just get everything,
Right.
Instead of being like, well, I want Alcantara this, but I don't want that, and you're like, just get the GTS.
Right. Done.
Like you're gonna get everything. You're gonna get everything all the way up to the GT car essentially. Like you're gonna get the good motor, you're gonna get the comfy seats, you're gonna get all the right stuff. The car's gonna sound great. You're gonna get PASM, you're gonna get sports exhaust, you're gonna get all the good stuff.
Right.
You know, it's just the one step down from the GT4, the GT3, or whatever you want to, whatever that model line is.
Yep.
So I do agree with that. Like you know what I mean. Like it is a great car, and a lot of people I think if I can say it's like a lot of people pass on that though. Like in the sense of like you don't see a lot of them
Right,
either,
you don't.
right?
Because people
true.
would probably want to go for a turbo or GT car, but
Yeah, I almost feel like okay, they're either getting the S or they almost like you said, they either go straight to the turbo or they go to the GT
Yeah.
car. They almost kind of bypass the GTS, right? Like I'm like, wow, that's actually kind of a really good buy. You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
getting a lot of car. You're getting you could Grand Tour that thing if you wanted to, and it's got tons of power, and it's gonna be great.
And across the whole model lineup, I mean, Cayenne GTS for me is it's the best SUV
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
there. I mean,
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
needed a big old soccer mom SUV,
Yeah.
that's where I would go.
It's a stud too, man. Like, and I was telling him like the Panamera Sport Turismo GTS.
Oh, that's my heart.
Isn't
That is
it?
my heart.
Isn't that so money?
We
Like,
freaked out when they announced
yeah,
that.
like,
we did.
yeah, him and I both, and we were at Amelia when we saw one, and I was like, I literally looked at it for like an hour, and like
That's
people are like,
perfect.
what's your deal? And I was like, do you see this?
Right?
It was in Arena Red.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
good. So good.
And I'm like, only if I had the money. Only if I had the money. I was like, I would be driving this every day.
Right.
Every day. Like this thing could do so much. You guys with the dollars out there that are not buying that car are totally mentally like missing something.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that squawked for the wagons.
Yeah.
Porsche
right?
finally does a wagon.
And we talked
you
about
never
that
see
too. It's
them.
like nobody puts their money where their mouth is,
Right.
right? Like do Porsche a favor, do them a solid, either shut up or buy them.
Yep.
Yep.
Like nobody, like we can't sit here and wait to be the fifth or sixth owner on the car because as a manufacturer, they're just not going to sell them anymore. And then everybody's going to boo-hoo and be like, man, why don't you sell the wagon here? Like Mercedes sells their E63 wagon. And it's like, you know what? Because people buy them, dude.
Yep.
So buy
They
it.
So many. Yeah.
Right.
And it's one of those things. It's like, it's people just, like you said it perfectly, people aren't buying them. They want them, but they don't buy them,
Yep.
right? And it's such a gorgeous car, isn't it?
It's perfect.
Yes.
I think they should switch the Panamera just to
Yeah,
this
we
to the
talked-
sports
yeah,
tourism.
talked
They
about
should
that.
just
That's it.
drop
Yep.
this the way that it is with that, and just
Wagon
switch to the
only.
wagon. Like that should just be the Panamera. It shouldn't even have to be a sports Turismo. Just drop that part. This is the Panamera now,
Be
standard.
a smack in the face to all these owners.
Yeah, it's just a standard. Bam. This is what you want. Guess what? It doesn't matter. It's not a wagon. It's just a Panamera
Yep.
Yep.
with a hatch. I mean, it has a hatch on it anyways. It's just a little bit more raked now.
It's
That's
better.
it.
I'm in.
Yeah, done. You hear
Still
it.
not a buyer right now, but
Exactly.
I'm in.
You heard us, AG. Buy it. Like, make it happen. All right. So, Pete, tell us your favorite all-time Porsche. Anything. You can pick race car. You can pick whatever you want. Whatever you want.
I would say 996 GT2.
Ooh.
Okay.
We have
Widowmaker.
the original
Yeah.
Widowmaker, 996 turbo, put it on diet,
Okay.
rear-wheel drive, bigger turbos, more boost, ceramics. It's perfect.
Now is it just because it's like the last true Widowmaker? Is that why you like it? What's the reasoning behind that one?
I'm a turbo guy always.
Okay.
If I can have a car with a turbo versus non-turbo, I'm going turbo, usually every time. But it's just, I don't know, it's just the whole shape of the car. I mean, people, the headlights and all that, and
Yeah.
996 headlights.
That's
blah, blah.
garbage too.
Right.
Like everybody talks
I think
that stuff.
I think it's terrible. But
Good for guys
I
like
just-
us though that like don't care about stuff like that though,
Right.
right? Like enthusiasts like us and like, dude, you don't drive the headlights. I've been telling people left and right.
Right.
We get so many questions all the time. What's the most bang for the buck when I want to buy a Porsche? I was like, you want to hear buy a 996 turbo. Buy a 996 turbo. Because I promise you, someday, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not even next year, but maybe 10 or 20 years from now, that car's going to make a resurgence. It's going to be like the slant noses, like the old school slant nose, the actual slant noses. Nobody wanted them for a long time. In the last few years, the actual true slant noses, look at the prices on those things. They're ridiculous. Right. I'm not talking about the kitted ones. I'm talking about the OG ones, the real ones. And like people are like, oh, that's ridiculous. I wouldn't want that. Well, guess what? People are fighting over them now. Someday I think that car is going to be that way. Because people, like for the longest time, people have shunned them away. And now I'm not talking about all of the 996s. I'm talking about the actual turbo one or the GT2, like you said, like the special ones, the ones that got a lot of power, and it's got the big booty, and it's got all the right stuff on it still. And, and preferably probably a newer one like the 03 or something like that. But like that's the sweet spot, in my personal opinion. Such a good car.
And
but
the turbo, I mean, you can steal them.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
had people come in here just parts. Hey, just picked up 996 turbo for under 30,000. I'm
Exactly.
like, what?
Exactly.
Okay.
And they're like, "Whoa, you did what?" And you're like, you better hang on to that car.
Yeah.
It's like, it's unbelievable. So yeah, 996 GT2,
Yep.
huh?
Yep.
That's your special
always
one.
that's always been it for me.
Yeah. That's a special car too. I mean, if you have your Porsche knowledge up, people that aren't out there, like it really is one of the. I mean, granted, they made a 997, GT2 as well. But I kind of agree with you. Like that was more of the analog, right? Like
Yeah, a
that
little
was
more
one.
raw.
That was just like where there's just no nannies. Like literally,
No
you mess
traction
that up, you're
control.
gonna die.
You're gonna die.
Game
Well,
over.
that and,
Yeah.
and the styling of it too, it looks really good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what all the turbo guys do anyways, is
Yep.
put the GT2 front
Yep.
bumper
Yeah, and they put the
spoiler.
GT2 wing on it. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it is. I still love that car, and I think that's still a hell of a buy too, because I see some of them going. I know it sounds pretentious to say, and I can't afford it, but I mean, you can scoop one up for like 130. Like that's
Higher
that is
mileage
a
car.
super special car around that price range. If you can buy one of those cars at that, like, and you have the money, you
Do it.
need to do it.
Yeah,
And
do
it's
it.
like that, and
Do
then you
it.
go GT1, and then that's a large gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? But I mean, it's low production. It meets all the right qualities, right? Like
Mhm.
it's all special. Like it goes back to, it pays homage to the 930, the original Widowmaker turbo.
Yep.
It has all the right feels. It's almost kind of it's a modern 930 essentially is what it is, without any nannies on it, and more power and trying to kill
What's
you.
not to
still.
love?
Yeah, and still trying to kill you. So yeah, good choice though. I like that. That's an interesting one. All right, so let's transition a little bit. So obviously 718, you have a 718, so that speaks to you. You guys done the 718 build. So let's talk a little bit about the new GT4 and the Spider.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, what are thoughts? Whoever wants
Bring
to go
it back
first,
to
I don't
6.
care. Like
I think the Spider is perfect
I would
in
fully
every
agree. I would
aspect
fully
of the
agree.
word.
you're my best friend.
I thought the 981 was
Thank-
perfect, but this is even better.
Yeah,
I totally
he can't
agree with
stop
you.
talking
Oh,
about
my
I am
God.
so in love with that car. Like off air, like I just will not shut up. Aaron's
I
just
love
like,
it.
really, you like that? He's like, you'd rather have that than the coupe, and I'm like, yes,
I would too.
Yes,
I would too.
Any day of
I
the
wouldn't
week,
think twice.
like 3 times over. I'd rather have that car than the coupe. I'm guessing you don't feel the same.
I totally agree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay, I didn't know, because some people are really
Right,
coupe
no,
heavy, like,
no.
and that's okay too. I'm not upset about that at all. Like he's like, no, I'd rather have the coupe, because we actually discussed this a little bit on the show, and I just wanted to hear what because you guys are deep in Porsche, so I always like to hear other people's opinions about that. So on the
Absolutely.
Spider.
So I would take a Spider or Speedster over GT2, GT3 any day of the
Mhm.
week. So they just have something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yep.
So if they could make something like lightweight that was almost Targa-esque for that, I think it'd be it.
I think it's more special than the GT4. I mean, you
I
have
agree.
GT3s and,
I
coupes
totally
with a
agree.
wing on it.
I totally
it looks
agree.
more special. And now the GT department had a lot to do with this car versus the
Exactly.
last car.
For
I mean,
once,
there's
yeah.
so
Right.
much. There's so much DNA. Like, and I've been telling people. I mean, obviously, all the allocations for this year are sold out. But when I went to Goodwood, I spoke to one of the lead engineers there, and he says, "Well, they're probably going to make the car for a couple more years. So there are going to be some more allocations that are obviously coming each year." He said, "I think we're going to try to make a 3-year run on that car." And so there's going to be more of them circulating, which is a great thing because guys like us, maybe someday, there'll be more in secondhand circulation, and maybe we'll be able to get our hands on one because I really do believe that, like, it doesn't get any closer from a modern aspect to a 550 Spider
Yeah.
Exactly.
than that. Like,
Yeah,
it really is that
true.
special to me. Like, that's why it strikes a chord with me so much because, and, it's nice that we live in Florida in a warm climate, but at the same time, I can just, maybe I'm just in love with the idea of that car more than anything, but not, I'm sure it drives beautiful and sounds amazing. I heard it go up the hill at Goodwood, but I just picture myself, right? And I'm sure you guys do too, like driving on some canyon road somewhere one morning with some shades on and there's nobody else out there. And you are literally like screaming out every gear, just
That's all we're doing is dreaming because we don't have those roads here.
exactly, right?
All we can do is
Exactly.
dream.
And you're just like,
The stoplight here.
you're like, someday that's going to be me, like doing that. And like, that's what that car brings, right? It brings an emotion out. And I think that's why we feel so strongly about it because you see that car and you instantly start thinking about things that you want to do with that car or want to be or do things with like that car. And
Right,
you're
it's
just
an
like,
event when you drive the car. That's
exactly.
how it should
And that's
be.
what it should be. And not that GT4 doesn't invoke those events, but I think when you see a GT4, and I'm speaking for me, I instantly think track, right? But when I see the Spider, I think of a lifestyle, right?
Yep.
Like, I'm going to go grab a coffee. I'm going to go do
But I'm going to take the
this.
long way.
Yeah. And like, man,
The
I'm
real
just,
long way.
you
Yeah.
know, 15-minute drive turned into an hour and 15-minute drive, and I was just
That
blasting
Starbucks
away.
is really, really far away.
The wife's
You
wondering
know.
where you've been.
Exactly. And you're just hearing like, this like whispering wind and just raspy exhaust. That's all you hear. It's just, and you're just echoing off the canyons. I'm like, why am I not selling cars for Porsche? Like, I'm just like selling people the dream right now. I'm just like, but really, I do feel that car, like, and I'm, especially when I saw it in person, and then I heard it run and watched them drive it, like, it really makes me melt. Like, and I like the Speedster a lot too. Like, don't get me wrong, that's a very second close for me. But like, I feel the Spider, like, just size wise.
Yeah, that's for me too.
I
the
think
size.
that's the home run. Like, I look at the body size of that thing, and it just optically, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's just perfect.
Yeah.
I'm just like. And
I
I know a guy that has an allocation for 2 of them.
That's true.
Oh.
What a scumbag!
Wow.
No, I love you. I'm joking. You know who you are, but what a lucky guy, right? Like, I think he's getting like a heritage like one or something like that, or like a style heritage style like that they were trying to invoke on the Spider.
Oh, with the interior, the rim.
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Nice.
Yeah, with like the red and then the red top and all that, like the
Yep.
launch one or whatever. And then he's getting another one. He's gonna spec, and I'm like, you're gonna have 2? And he's like, oh, I got an allocation for 2. And probably sell the other one. I'm like, oh, of course you will, and probably pay for the other one with it, right?
That's usually how it
But
works.
yeah, exactly. It's like, must be nice. But yeah, I'm glad you guys are on the same page. It makes me feel good, like hearing that,
Yeah.
So it's 3 against 1 here.
That's
with
okay.
Aaron.
I mean,
no,
I'm not saying that.
no,
Sorry
I'm
about
just
that.
kidding.
Sorry about that.
I'm not saying that I hate it. it's okay.
So even after all of this convincing, even after all of this, like Rick with 20 years, this guy with 7 years, everybody, all this Porsche
No,
history,
just jump off the bridge, too.
you still would rather choose the coupe.
I mean, I wouldn't mind having something convertible-esque. I just don't like the top. I like if there was something. If it was a
Does
motorized
it like
top.
mess your beard
Right.
hair up or something?
maybe
Is
that's
that
what it-
why?
Just the wind, and then it's
It gets frizzy
yeah.
in
Maybe
the wind?
because he's staring at a coupe right now.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what it is?
He has a good
exactly.
view.
Yeah.
So
You're just a coupe guy. Not enough AC in the drop top for you.
yeah.
It's too hot in here.
I guess that's what it is.
No, but such a special car, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I can't wait to start seeing them on the roads. And let's talk about like a little bit of the R&D. I mean, like you brought that up, as far as sharing a lot of parts with the GT4. Maybe something you've already heard and you already know, but I didn't know this until I spoke to some of them. But I guess basically they did a lot of the R&D on the Spider first, and then they were able to, I guess, unlock some of the, the downforce with that car with the rear diffuser,
Yeah,
and they
they had
did
to
such a
figure it out.
good job because it didn't have the high wing. That carried over to the GT4 Coupe because the rear diffuser is so good in the Spider that it creates so much downforce. I just found that amazing.
Yeah.
Had you
It's
guys heard
usually
that?
the opposite way. I mean,
Exactly,
they work on the
right?
coupes, and then they kind of reverse engineer to the convertibles,
Exactly.
or spiders, or whatever you want to call it.
Exactly.
Did you see that car in person?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
that's
insane.
That's a diffuser.
Oh yeah, it's insane, and they said that it creates. They were able to create a ton of downforce with a rear diffuser. So like, that
Well,
just shows
yeah.
you
Yep.
they know what they're doing.
Well, I mean, you had to see. They're like, well, we're going to do a Spider and figure out how this works.
Yeah.
Because we're not doing a wing.
No.
So,
That's
figure it
Porsche.
out.
They got the best engineers in the world. So.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
Oh, how crazy would it look with a wing like that? on
awful.
Yeah.
You can't do
Just
it.
that little ducktail. That's it.
No,
That's
it's
all. it
perfect.
is. It's
So
perfect.
perfect.
Of course, it's
We're
perfect.
ducktail
We're
fans
down.
too.
Yeah, of course.
Big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that's just too much. The wing's too much. You couldn't do it. It would look awful if you did that. It would just screw up the body lines
Mess
of
up
that
the
car.
humps.
But are they
Yeah.
sure they couldn't do a center exhaust with that though? Like, does it have to be separated the
Yeah,
way it is?
let's hear opinions on that because he asked me a question about that, and I don't want to answer and give away why I think it happened. So let's hear your thoughts behind it on the engineering mindspect of why you think that happened, or does it even matter? What do you think?
It's hard to say because the motor, the engine didn't really change much. I
Mhm.
mean, now it's a 4-liter, but it's not like they had to change piping because they have 2 less cylinders, like a 718, for instance, which still has a center exhaust. So
Mhm.
I mean, the way they had to make those side scoops are so big. I would almost think they could keep them in the middle, but again, I'm not an engineer. So
Yeah.
it's hard to say. I don't know.
How does it even matter to you though? Like, do you see-
Aesthetically?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
How about you?
Don't they always go with function over form, or what's that little
Yeah,
thing they
you're,
always
you're
say?
right. You're on the right path. You're on the same headspace I am.
Right.
Like, yeah, exactly. And that's what I said to Aaron. I said, after we started talking about it, I said, and I'm not basing this off of any information that I know, but I said, well, I bet you the rear diffuser dictates where that exhaust comes out now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Ferrari and the Lamborghini, and they started to move those pipes up or more towards
Mhm.
the rear grille.
Yeah, and
now
a
they've
lot of
got
them
those
just got 'em
huge-
out of there.
Right, they've got
Right.
those huge, big scoops down there. So
Yeah, and I mean, you take it a little further, even to McLaren. Their LT it's coming straight out the top because they don't want that disturbing anything underneath its diffuser. So I mean, I think that's why. I mean, I don't have any substance behind that.
Right.
But I'm thinking like, well, that's probably why that exists, because they figured in the middle of that they're creating additional downforce the
They'll
way
probably
their diffuser.
Yeah,
Mhm.
surface base.
Yeah, where it's pushing more down, and I think that I'm on the same page with you. I think that's probably why it looks the way it looks. As most people are like, oh, well, it's not traditional. It doesn't look the way it looks. I'm like, who cares? The car's sexy.
Right.
Yeah, I was just saying that since it was a 3.8,
Lies.
down to
Stop.
a 4.
Stop
But,
talking.
yeah.
And they just go,
Stop
well,
talking.
That's the way the exhaust is. Let's figure it out.
Not my
But a
friend.
4-liter in a
These two
Cayman's
are my
not
friends.
traditional either. So.
Not my friend anymore. These two are my friends. These are my spider friends. Gang up on you.
Gotta have competition for the Spider. Because
Yeah.
if you never had the coupe, you wouldn't have the Spider. So
Yeah.
there you go.
The Spider's always been around. This is the first time they really give it any real love, though.
That's true.
It was more Boxster-esque before. Now it's
Yeah.
more GT-esque, and I think that's why it speaks to me so much more, is because drivetrain-wise, all that kind of stuff, now it sings the proper song it should be singing for a Spider.
It's like they thought about it a little more.
Exactly, right? Like, they listen
Somebody
to people.
else wanted
Right.
one, was like, you know what, we're going to put the GT motor in there.
Do it.
But I'll give Porsche credit though for this. They may be a little bit more reactive behind things instead of being proactive about things. But from a manufacturing standpoint, they're a lot different than other brands, right? Like, they do kind of hear the battle cry.
Mhm.
Like when the masses make a cry for something, they're like, okay, pump the brakes, guys. Fine,
Yep.
we will do this.
Everybody
Take
calm
it easy.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll make a GT3
Yeah.
with a manual.
Exactly. Don't get your blood pressure up. Take your medication. Take it easy. As opposed to like maybe a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, and they're like, well, we want this, and they're like, well, it's too bad. It's a Ferrari. You drive it the way it is. It doesn't matter what you want. I tell you what you want, okay? And it's one of those things where, like, there's so many Porsche people, and people are so ingrained in the brand. it's almost kind of towards Porsche's detriment in a way, because people are like, we will not, no, all of us. I have a petition with 100,000 people that will not let this car go for sale. And they're like, back to the drawing board, friends. We're going to have to fix this, man.
And they do.
Yeah. But kudos to them for actually like adhering to that, right? Because very, very few manufacturers are like, most of them would say go kick rocks, right? Like they're like,
Right.
tough, man. It is what it is. Hey, guess what? You don't want it, someone else will buy it. And that's a lot of manufacturers' attitudes, but not Porsche's. So kudos to you guys on that. So something interesting, it just broke a couple days ago. This is news related, so I'm going to throw the topic out there. This is going to be a pretty interesting topic. So there's two guys debating over this, and I know we had this whole Seinfeld fiasco earlier this year with the Speedster, people saying, oh, it was well, not people, but one gentleman who bought it claiming it wasn't real, going back and forth. You get ipso facto, you guys get all the stuff, like we don't need to recover that. But now this is kind of happening, and this just happened 2 days ago. There's a gentleman in New York, and then there's one in California, that there's two owners of the car number 7 for the 1973 RSR, with the one with the Martini livery that drove at Le Mans. They're both saying they own car number 7.
Ooh, that's an interesting.
Ooh, don't
And
do
one
it.
of them is trying to sell the car.
Ooh.
So now buyers are leery because they don't know which one's which, and they're both claiming that they both have documentation.
They just check the VIN, right?
Yeah, right. It's not. I don't think it's just that, but I guess and now it's in kind of a lawsuit standpoint. There's no detail since it's just broke, and I guess the lawsuit is to authenticate which one is which. But both are claiming that they have substantial documentation to prove that they have that car.
So do you think one has documentation on the other's car?
Well, what I was thinking is that maybe somebody's paperwork is forged here.
Mm.
So
It would almost have to be.
yeah. Well, you would think so, right?
Well,
So
I mean, the only thing they can do is go back to the Porsche archives, and I mean, if it's something raised by them, but if
yeah,
it's
and
customer
again, they only
raised,
ever made 8 of these.
Yeah.
So there can't be 2 number 7s.
not a lot. Not a lot. Not
Well,
a
I
long
have
trail.
number 7. No, I have number 7. And it's like, well, they're identical cars. So the one guy's claiming the other one's not real. The other one, the guy's saying, oh, I'm not the real car. I mean, obviously we're talking millions and millions of dollars here.
Yeah.
And race pedigree and all that kind of stuff. So we all know that kind of stuff, what goes into it. I guess why I'm bringing it up is, do you guys find it kind of odd that we had this Seinfeld thing earlier this year? Now we're having this. I wonder how many other cars that are out there that people think that they have the real car that may not be the real car. And things are being, maybe people are starting to come to light. And like,
more.
maybe so there's a lot of good forgeries happening out there and people don't realize it.
And until you put the car for sale, you may not ever question it.
Yeah.
And there's probably not a Carfax for a race car.
Oh,
is
of
there?
course not. No, no, absolutely not.
Yeah,
And I think
there you go.
I think it goes back to, like, back then they didn't like VIN code stuff. It was more kind of like photo documentation.
race car.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh,
your
yeah.
car was registered here. Oh, yeah, it had that blemish on it when it raced at this track. Here's this photo to prove it.
It's
like
real.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So at this point, like, if they've both been totally restored, how do you know which one's which?
Yep.
Like,
That's going to be a
That
conundrum
sounds like
for
a
both of them.
nightmare.
yeah. I mean, and then the next thing I was going to be, could you imagine if you were one of the other guys?
Somebody paid too much for one of
Yep.
them.
Oh, well, thanks, Captain Obvious. Anything else?
Do you think that
The sun's going to set tonight.
Do you think that what? Do you think they're both? Do you think they both might have been owned by the same team, and they had a backup car, and they just happened to be both set up the same way?
I
It's a good theory.
think
Yep.
I think what probably happened is that was a popular car at the time. Porsche race cars and collecting wasn't always very popular back in the day, and I think somebody made a very, very outstanding replica,
Tribute.
and then maybe even got a hold of documentation and made copies of all that documentation and kept it with that car. And then the story, as anybody knows,
It
I
just
tell
got-
you a
yeah.
story,
Right.
you tell him a story,
It's a
and you
telephone
tell
game.
him a story, and now by the time it's back to me, it's the real car.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe what happened with one of these cars. But now the game is, it's such an old car, who's going to be able to say what's what? So they might both just be stuck with these cars.
Right.
Like,
What if they're both not real?
that's
a possibility.
that's
too.
also a possibility.
There's all kind of ways this game could.
What a
play out,
nightmare
right?
though, right? Like, what a nightmare to be
Third
in.
guy
Like,
pops
you
up,
think
I've
you
got
think
that.
you're like, you have this special car and you've been coveting it for so long, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, you know, and it's probably nothing's malicious, you know, like the one guy who bought the car in '08, you know, he's the one who's being dragged into the lawsuit, and he's like, well, I don't know, like same thing, kind of like Seinfeld. He's like, I'm not trying to peddle this car off. Like, I
Right.
thought it was real.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're the owners of both cars, who do you trust?
Exactly. You know, and how far does it go back to you? How do you, how do you do such a forensic deep dive to where did it go wrong, right? Where did the fork in the road go back? Did it happen all the way back to like 1974 when somebody grabbed a crashed race car and was like, we're gonna sell this off,
Slap
man?
some
Like,
paint on it, and here we go.
exactly. You know, it's
Or I
like,
like that one thing we make it. And it'd be cool to have some documentation on it. That'd be cool.
you're like,
Yeah.
cool, yeah, man.
It's not real, but I got some documentation. It looks pretty real.
Exactly.
And then the next guy.
It's like, why don't you just make copies of that one? Okay. Just put it on the machine and just.
They go to the local car show with my dogs. Look, I'm real.
Exactly, and like now you're in.
look how close my replica is, and then
Yeah.
it's like, look how close my real car is. Oh.
They're like, that's not a replica, it's real. You're like, yeah, it is real, right? Yeah, maybe it is real. I don't know. Is it real? But I just thought it was interesting because that literally broke like 2 days ago, and I just find it. I guess it would probably be pretty easy to replicate race cars, right? Like, especially from an era like that, where
Yeah,
people
back that far, yeah.
because back in the day, Porsche they had the same kind of mindset. Like, that wasn't like a valuable car. Like, had a purpose, right? Let's win races.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're done with it, we're done with it. Whatever. Whatever somebody wants to buy it, it's like, fine, move it on. Us enthusiasts built that market up. We're the ones who did that. We're the ones who created this multi-million-dollar market of like, that's so coveted. There's only 8 of them. Oh my God, I want that thing. And it's like, you drive it, and most people, if you look at it, it's like, damn, it's impossible to start because it's always pissed off. Like, it's got to idle at like 5,000. It's like, it's a nightmare, right? But you want to own it so bad because it's such a small number car. It raced at Le Mans. It did this, it did that, and you want it for all its pedigree. But
Maybe one of the guys will have like a lower number car than he thought he had. Maybe it'll work out that way.
Right.
Yeah.
His documentation was just off a little bit. He has number 1 instead of number 7.
Yeah. Hopefully it works out.
Just put a new sticker on it. We're good.
I just find it interesting because like there's no actual details about like the lawsuit itself. But like I wanted to ask you guys' opinion. Like, what do you think the lawsuit is? Is it somebody like the lawsuit saying to authenticate that your car's a fake? Like, if I bring a lawsuit against you and you have the same one, even if you're not claiming it's a fake and you own the car, like, how can I bring a lawsuit against you? Like, what you're
It's
like,
not your fault.
Exactly. So I'm just like, I'm confused by the legalities behind that.
It would have to be. I would assume that it's against the other person's car saying, mine's real, his isn't. That has to be it. Because, especially if it's going up for sale.
So it has to be based off authentication, right? Like, I mean, that's the whole purpose behind it. It can't be.
Who could prove that?
Exactly. So now it's one of those things where you're into one of those, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to follow for sure.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree.
So it'll be cool to see where it goes.
Yeah, it would be interesting nevertheless. I mean, we'll see what happens with that. I just thought it was an interesting topic to talk about. But, yeah, we're almost out of time. But do you have anything that you want to bring forward before we close out?
No, I don't think I have anything. I think we're good.
That's fine. That's his GT4, the one who was walking back and forth. It's fine. We're not going to cut it. It's
Yeah.
You're in it. You can come wave. It's not a problem.
I'll just make a thing that says GT4.
Exactly. It's like he's like like who's that dude? It's like this is his car. That's what he's walking around. But all right. Well, I just want to thank you guys once again for coming on the show. I appreciate you sharing some time with us and taking the time to come on the show and letting us drive your car around and letting us get in your Kool-Aid for the day. And I'm looking forward to basically building our relationship, coming down here again, driving more cars with you guys and things like that. So
Yeah, Mike might be buying a Cayman soon. We'll see.
Right? I can't wait to see that video.
yeah, it was pretty wicked. It's pretty awesome. But
Yeah, like we said, meet us at the track. We'll have some fun.
Consider it done. I'll be there for sure. I mean, I don't know about this guy, but I'll be there.
I'm always there.
I'm gonna make it happen. So
It's getting to be season.
it's not running. Oh, your video's not running. He says, "Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's all good." Well, then they'll just get cutscenes after that. But just want to remind everybody that's listening out there, make sure that you hit us up on pcartalk.com, become a virtual member, so you can be part of the PCAR club. That way we can, engage with you guys on Tuesday nights, running our virtual program. You'll get a t-shirt decal, and new thing is you're going to get a metal RS member card. So if you do a RS annual membership, you will get a membership card with that. Additionally, there's going to be some discounts and giveaways associated with your membership, so make sure you check that out. So there's a ton of value there, and there's a ton of access behind the scenes behind that. But we want to thank you guys so much, and thank everybody for listening. Thank everybody for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yep. See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of PCAR Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at PCAR Talk or online at pcartalk.com.